We're going to call this meeting
Time, Mike.
I
to
have that written
order.
down somewhere, and I know it's too much.
It's 7 o'clock.
Oh, man, I had more to go.
May I have a roll call?
Trustee Stevens.
Here.
Trustee Myers.
Here.
Trustee Compton. Trustee Landwehr. Trustee Swenson.
Here.
Trustee Walschlager. Here. President Vanderstel.
Here. Please rise and join Trustee Stevens, who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks for not kneeling.
At this time, we will have Chief Dean with a presentation.
Thank you for this opportunity to address the board and two very special firemen, one special fireman and one special fire lady from the Hartland Fire Department that recently took a trip to Texas on their own time with their own money to help the catastrophic damage that was done after the hurricane. So I'd like to introduce Division Chief Sharon Dyer, could come up, and Lieutenant Andy Fallon, come up right to the front row, right down here, and I'd just like to read their proclamation here. Certificate of Recognition for Uncommon Valor. The certificate honors the courage and bravery exemplified through Sharon Dyer's and Andy Fallon's willingness to place themselves in harm's way in efforts to help her fellow Americans recover from the historic and catastrophic Hurricane Harvey, which struck the Texas coast on August 25th, 2017, devastating southeast Texas. Per AccuWeather.com, Hurricane Harvey was responsible for a record downpour of 11 trillion gallons of water on the state of Texas, with a total rain gauge measurement of 51.88 inches. Houston firefighters were undaunted with requests for assistance from the citizens of Houston, with a record 56,000 911 calls within a 15-hour period and 34,000 water rescues. 58 counties in Texas were declared disaster areas. While Houston's firefighters fought the elements to save lives, their own families and properties were at risk, and many firefighters experienced total loss of their homes. After the storm, exhausted and beat down, firefighters returned to their homes, attempting to salvage what remained of their homes. Unsure of their futures and facing a bleak situation, a bright light shone from the state of Wisconsin. Brothers and sisters came to the rescue. Seeking to provide aid, Andy and Sharon acted unselfishly and traveled 23 hours, long bus ride, to Houston to assist with the difficult demolition of Houston firefighters' homes, donating 7 grueling days of their time. In the words of the infamous World War II Lieutenant Colonel Doolittle, there is nothing stronger than the heart of a volunteer. Thank you for your kind heart and steadfast bravery. Houston Strong is derived from the strength of people with strong character, just like you. Houston firefighters offer our sincerest, heartfelt gratitude for your aid in our time of need. And also to add to this, your aid and timing and willingness to serve the village of Hartland ties right in with this. You both have served long careers here, and I can't thank you enough for your dedication, support, and understanding and compassion of the village of Hartland residents. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Jeff, can I just say, as somebody who lived in Houston and went through a couple hurricanes, not that bad, I can tell you that their services are more appreciated than we'll ever know.
Thank you. I think it's really cool that those were for them to go and help, because no one's there for the firefighters, because they are all out serving, so they went to serve so that others could continue to serve, and it's I think that's really, really neat. At this time, if there are any public comments for items that are not on the agenda, anybody that has any comments that are not on the agenda, you can step forward to the podium. And there are no comments. So the first item on the agenda is a consideration of a motion to approve the village board minutes from the September 25th, 2017 meeting.
Also moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion is carried. Next item on the agenda is a consideration of a motion to approve the vouchers for payment in the amount of $809,537,000.06.
I move that we pay the bills for $809,537.06. Second.
Second,
It's been
discussion.
moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Yeah, I have a question. For Parks
Forget
and
it.
Recreation, we've got some graffiti removal, and I'm just concerned, every year it seems like we throw away about $15,000, 12 to $15,000 on graffiti removal. Is that help? Are we stopping any of that? Are we catching any of those ruffians?
Doesn't help if you catch them. They can't be made to do anything.
Well, Public Works works closely with the police department in as soon as we identify any graffiti, we contact the police department. They send an officer out that records what is done out there, and then I can have Chief Bagan address what they do with that information. But in the past, we've had up to maybe $7,000 a year for damage from vandalism, and last year we had a great year. It was very minimal. I'm thinking about 400, but this year it's up quite a bit. So we're trying to take care of it as quick as possible, and the biggest thing is don't proclaim what the graffiti says, because the taggers want to get the publicity out there, and that's the biggest thing you don't do, is just clean it up as quick as possible so you don't have that.
Is that happening at more than all the parks, or one or two, or just?
Typically, a lot of the parks get it. I think this year, Pembroke and Nixon and Hartbrook were probably the most.
Good evening. It does vary. The parks, the water towers, any public property, we request the DPW to clean it off as quick as possible. If you go back in history, there was a broken windows theory that was very big in law enforcement. The idea is clean up the little things, because if somebody sees graffiti, they might plant that in their mind that that's acceptable to do in that area. So we don't catch people very often because time and place of how these things are done, typically it might be in hours of darkness. There's not a lot of people around because they're not supposed to be in the park. So we generally lack witnesses, but what we do is we track it all so that if there's any commonality, similar styles, similar color of paint, and we do catch somebody, we can track it back to an individual and then try to get restitution for the village. We have had some success stories over the last many years where we don't catch them originally, but they do repeated acts of graffiti around town, and then when we finally do catch them, we go back and try to connect the dots and get as much restitution as we can for any landowners, including the village, who were victimized by the person.
I wonder if we should put that in our newspaper or in our magazine, our mailing, that get with a number to call if you see something, because each taxpayer, we're paying a ton of money each year just to fix stuff rather than that.
Right, Darlene may recall in the recent village newsletter that we did, we actually had some encouragement for parents, more along the lines of curfew and parental responsibility, is to know where their kids are, know what they're doing, and then also encouragement for citizens to keep their eyes open and watch for activities that are suspicious in nature and report those. Trying to get people to take a proactive approach to reporting any type of conduct timely is important to catching people. And so we do try to get that message out.
I'm surprised at Nixon, because Parkers has this problem with all the people that are there. I mean, we have people there all the time until dark, I guess, and then that's when it happens.
Yeah, and it doesn't take long for somebody to do that.
All right.
Would
Thanks.
it be expensive to have, I believe they have cameras with,
Motion detection.
motion detection or that,
We have explored that, and in the case of some of these camera systems, to have them be beneficial to where they operate well at night, can send timely images. They get to be very expensive for permanently mounted ones. There are some resources we have temporarily that we use in places, but we don't like to talk a lot about that, for fear of obviously it
yeah.
not working then. But I looked at some recently at a Chiefs conference this summer. We were talking about 5,000 per camera plus 10,000 for the software and the system to be able to send it right to our network here, so we could, on a real-time basis, look into the park
And
and
then
see.
they have to be planted so
Yeah.
far up.
And then when you look at,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
exactly, the height on the pole, and then when you finally get down to doing that, now you're looking at perhaps $15,000 to try to catch somebody who did a couple $100 worth of damage. And so in some cases, just not cost effective. But we continue to watch it, and when I do see vendors, I talk to them about their products to see what's available. But what you don't want is a real basic, simple camera that gives us some grainy black and white image that is of no value.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we don't want to tell people that we're doing that either.
No.
Yeah, I mean, we want to do whatever we can protect them. I'm just curious on that dollar amount, because I know in the past we've had some hellacious fees. Seems like it's cutting down somewhat. That must be from the
And Mike and I
surveillance.
communicate about that so that we know, where we stand with if we're starting to see a lot of it, or, we stay in communication about that.
Thank you.
Is there any way, I've asked this in the past, that we can somehow change our rules, and if we catch who's doing it, have them clean it up instead of us, like it used to be?
Yeah, that brings in a lot of other issues in
You
terms
know
of.
what, I think every one of us would go and watch them to make sure that they don't get hurt and they're standing there doing their job.
Right now, it's not an effective system. Right now, we try to get money to pay, to recoup the cost of the cleanup, and
Okay,
then have it done to our satisfaction,
yeah, I just think it's more efficient to have a kid have to go with the consequences of cleaning up what they did.
There is no doubt we like that idea, and many people like that idea, but it's the practical nature of trying to do it that becomes difficult.
Okay, thank you. Can I ask my questions now? Couple things with that. I think one thing was coded wrong as I was talking to Mike. Outside service contracts for Kids Sports LLC, multi-sport program is listed under Public Works. I don't think that's where that belongs.
Page?
5. Correct, Kelly?
Yes, I saw that this morning,
Yeah.
and I talked to Finance Department, and this morning they made the change to the proper
Okay, I just wanted,
department.
I just wanted to do that. And then, let me get to the other page. Just in case somebody else had a question on that one. The other thing, and Mike had already answered this for me, some of it. On page 2, towards the bottom where it says outside service and contracts, Wisconsin building inspections, August permits, $20,601. I assume that either all of this or part of it is for our part-time inspector, is that correct?
All of it would be.
For him, so what percentage does he get of the permit fee? Or is that
70.
not? Pardon me?
70%,
And is that
page
for
2
commercial,
of the voucher list.
is that for commercial and residential, everything? that he
Everything.
does?
Everything, because his firm does all of the inspections, all the plan review, everything.
Okay. And is that a average number for a month? 20,000?
Sometimes that would be low,
Okay, that's all I
But
have.
that's all,
But-
that's all.
but
We don't have
that's-
any benefits or any other thing. That's the only fee we pay.
that number would be, that would be about average, maybe actually on the high average, but that would be average
Okay,
as of late.
okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Abstain.
That motion is carried. Next, we have the items for licenses and permits, or actions related to those items. First, we have a Class Beer and Class C wine license. The applicant is Java Services LLC, also known as Pink Mocha Cafe at 418 Merton Avenue. The documents are completed and on file. We have to have sorry, I didn't see that on the licensing. We have to open a public hearing on that, so that public hearing will open right now. Anybody have any public comments on that license? Since there are no comments, if there are not, we will close that public hearing, and we will have the consideration of an action related to the issuance of that license.
Also move that we approve it.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That is granted. Next, we have the items related to St. Charles Parish Trivia Night on November 4th, 2017. It's a consideration of an application for a temporary Class B beer license.
I make the motion to approve that license for St. Charles.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That is granted. Along with that is also a consideration of an application for a temporary operator's license.
Are all four of those for St. Charles? Is that what you're saying?
Nope, item 2
Oh, okay.
under section B.
Okay.
Am I correct on that?
Oh, yeah.
All four of the operators' licenses, though?
Oh, all 4 of the
Those are
operators?
regular operators. We're still on the temporary, which is listed under the,
Yep.
related to
That's-
St. Charles.
That's what I was
Oh, there
on.
it is.
Number
And
3,
Wick?
section B, number
Oh, I
2,
gotcha. Okay, sorry.
or II.
Ann Wick.
I make the motion to approve Ann Wick.
Second.
license.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That is granted. And then we have the consideration of an application for operator's bartender license with a term ending June 30th, 2018. And that is for Joanna Struber, Rachel Piantino, Adam Summer, and Stephanie Aller.
I move we approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Those are all granted. Next, we have, the next item on the agenda is consideration of the adoption on the third reading of the bill for an ordinance number 9/11/2017, an ordinance to amend Chapter 76 of the Village of Hartland Municipal Code pertaining to stormwater management.
I move we approve.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion from the public or otherwise?
We really don't have much choice outside of just saying, yes, we'll do what the state says. But I found out something too with that, with the requirements that the state's throwing on now, is Governor Doyle set that in such a way that it can only be changed by a complete vote of the Senate. So there's nothing we can really do, and he set a real awkward way of changing these restrictions. That's what Doyle did before he left office. So we can't do anything with that unless Congress, our representatives all get together and change it.
Right.
We're screwed.
They have to have a full
Wait a minute,
assembly.
it's Congress, not our state senate?
No, it's Wisconsin.
Oh, okay.
It's Wisconsin, and so that 150,000 we might spend, and Delahart might have to spend 12, 13 million. There's nothing we can really do with it, just sort of sit back and pay taxes. Thanks, Doyle.
That's what we're good for, I guess.
Well, hopefully in time we can curtail some of that somewhere. We can try. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
All opposed? That is granted, or that motion is carried. Next item on the agenda are items related to the sale of general obligation corporate purpose bonds. Would you
So
like to
Dawn
speak
from
first?
Ellers will come up and kind of introduce all of this to you, remind you of how it all works, answer whatever questions you may have, and then you can run through the resolutions and set things up.
Thank you. You may note that there's several resolutions pertaining to this particular item, and the reason for that is under Wisconsin state statute, when you issue corporate purpose bonds or bonds that are being financed or amortized over more than 10 years, they're required to be issued by purpose. So you're financing multiple projects with this, including some street improvements, some sewage projects, park and grounds projects, parking lot project, and we've also incorporated a refunding, which I'll talk a little bit about. So you're considering a resolution for each one of those purposes. And then ultimately, there's one combining resolution that combines all those purposes into $1 amount and authorizes you to issue the total amount of the bonds. So that's the reason that there's multiple individual resolutions that need to be acted upon.
Can I just ask you a real quick
Sure.
question? When you say bond, are we basically saying what we're gonna take a loan out for?
That's correct. What happens for municipalities, when you need to raise capital for projects, you issue bonds and investors buy the bonds in exchange for the money that they give you up front to use that. So,
I just wanna make sure that
Yeah.
we're asking,
Yeah.
loaning this money.
yeah, so when you pay them back the interest, that's, the interest on the bonds is their return on the investment of issuing those bonds. So that's the reason there's multiple resolutions. There was a document in your agenda packet called a pre-sale report, and I'll kind of walk through a little bit of what that entails. There's several pages that are narrative. I think the first, there's a cover page, and then the first 4 pages of that document are narrative. That basically identifies the purpose of the issue, the statute that allows you to do this. I'll talk a little bit about this refunding that we're doing. It talks about your ability to issue this in your borrowing capacity. You've got plenty of capacity to issue the debt for these purposes. We talk a little bit about the method that we're proceeding with the sale and a few other items there, and I'm happy to answer any questions related to that, but I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail. But the timing of this is, we're here this evening to do this initial authorization. Once that's done, we will be gathering information from staff, preparing a prospectus, or what we call a preliminary official statement. That document is what goes ultimately to the investors to make their decision to invest in bonds for the village. So that will be ultimately distributed to all of you. You'll receive something in the mail with that official statement. It'll have a lot of information about the village, the tax base, your highest taxpayers, your financial history, your financial statements. You are rated by Moody's Investor Services. You hold a AA2 rating, so we will seek a rating conference call with Moody's to seek to have that affirmed and these bonds rated in that fashion. And then we'll take it out for a competitive bond sale, meaning we'll issue it out to the market. Underwriters locally, nationally, local banks will have the opportunity to bid on this as well. And we'll come back to you on the 13th of November then with the results of that competitive sale, and that's at that point you lock into the interest rates on the bonds. Now, municipal bonds hold coupons and maturities for each year, so they hold a different interest rate. Now, I'll show you that on the upcoming schedule. So investors are buying either, the first year, the second year of the bonds, the 10th year, the 20th year, and then they'll have a return interest rate for those years. So that's kind of where we go from here. We ultimately then would close those bonds on December 5th, and that's when you'd have all the money to take care of all the projects. Part of the reason we're doing this a little bit early is to get this locked in for your ability to levy the taxes to make next year's principal and interest payments. So the first page with numbers following that narrative, it would be ultimately in your screens, the 6th page of this document.
Don, I got a
Yeah,
question.
certainly.
Reading through this, the method of sale and placement, where we can include the allowance of discounting bids up to 1.25% principal amount issued. That's what the lowest, I guess I'm confused with that. We're going to obtain the lowest interest.
Yeah, what happens here is there are 2 things that get bid on when you take it out to market. One is the interest rate, so that's the rate that you're paying on the issue itself. The second is, as an underwriter bids on it, they get a fee to turn around and sell it into the commercial market or the retail market. So that underwriter discount, they bid that as part of their bidding process. So we put an allowance in here as a maximum amount that can be, and we estimate that for sizing, but it's an estimate at this time. So once it's finalized, then that many times will be either, will be reduced or offset based upon
So
the bids that come in.
that's what they're making?
Yep,
Okay.
yep. It's the fee that goes to the underwriter. And you would have that whether it was a competitive sale or any other, there would be that fee. So again, your resolutions are for the financing the projects that you're undertaking, again, streets, stormwater, sidewalk, curb, parking improvements, and your municipal parking lot. You've historically, and this is consistent with that, done a borrowing for 2 years' worth of projects, so you go out to the market every other year, and this is the timing to do that, and this will cover your projects for 17 and 18. We estimate, or the other piece that's included in this is a refunding. We always will be monitoring your outstanding debt if there's any opportunity to save money. Your 2009 issue that's outstanding, we look at the interest rates that are in place now, compare it to the estimate and market rates. So we've got a schedule that shows our estimate for savings on that, and it's fairly significant. It's considered a current refunding, meaning it's being done within 90 days of its ability to call that. So that's incorporated in this. It's beneficial to do it at the same time you're borrowing new money because it helps to reduce the amount of issuance expenses. They get kind of allocated between the new money and the refunding itself. And we incorporate the cost for the financial advisory fees, which is Ellers, your bond attorney, which is Quarles and Brady, the rating agency, Moody's Investor Service. If you determine you have Moody's serving as a disclosure counsel, that's estimated, and that's a decision that I don't know has been made yet. And then the underwriter's discount, we build in that as an estimate to come with our overall bond sizing. Now, our estimate for this, if the refunding is done, is that the bond issue would be $5,695,000. Your resolutions are a little larger than that. They're for an amount of $5,715,000. The only reason we've done that is if for some reason the market moves away and this refunding no longer makes any sense and we pull it out, we want to make sure that there's enough in the sizing to accomplish all that. So actually, the overall sizing would be less. We wouldn't have the refunding piece in it. But anyway, that's the difference between the two new numbers, and you ultimately will only issue what you actually need to the day of sale. If we have any overestimate of issuance cost, we will reduce that down. If we get any premium bid, meaning the way the pricing comes in, we can reduce the amount of the refunding. So will ultimately be back with the final sale, and it most likely will be a lower dollar amount that we'll
So there is
receive.
no way that would be pulled.
If it-
That 2009 issue, there's no way that would be pulled, and all of a sudden, for any reason, it costs anything more.
It will
But
not-
then all of a sudden, it never even needed to be pulled in the first place. Or that we get, there's no way we're going to lose anything
No,
on that.
yeah,
Is that correct?
we would, if it didn't make sense to do the refunding for savings, we would pull it. Now, there's such
At this
significant.
time, we're not positive, is that accurate?
I would
We're
say-
not 100% certain at this time.
At this particular point in time, we're only 30 days from selling this,
Mm-hmm.
that for rates to move, that you would lose this amount of savings, you've got so much savings, I'm fairly confident it would not be pulled, so.
What are we paying on the old bonds?
You're currently paying, your interest rates on the old bonds are currently, they range, again, each year has a different rate, between 3.25% and 4.125%.
Is
So
this
that's-
just for 2009 that we're pulling?
That's the 2009.
What's that percent?
Though, the 2009 that is currently out there is 3.25. So the maturity in 2018 is 3.25, 19 is 3.25, and the 2029, which is the last year of that debt issue, is 4.125. So those are the rates that you're currently paying. In refunding, our savings is going to be in the reducing that interest expense or reducing those interest rates. Our estimates for that same period of time now are based upon current market conditions.
You replace it with the same maturities.
We're not extending the life of the issue, so even though we're issuing 20-year bonds for the total issue, the refunding is only through 2029, and so we're refunding, the total years. We might change the structure a little bit because we're trying to do savings, but our estimate for rates at this particular point are 1.1 to 2.6. So that significant change in interest rates is where you're generating the savings in terms of the dollars, so.
Very good hedge, 1.1,
Well, and if you,
150 basis points.
Yeah.
I know it's
yeah, but if you
30
turn.
days, but
If you turn to the next page, or on your screen of the refunding, each year has a different interest rate. So our interest estimate for the 2018 bonds is 1.1, 2019 is 1.2. So each year holds a different interest rate. So, so 2023 at 1.6 and so on and so forth till we get to 29, and then we're at 2.6. So our estimate is each of those maturities, and we're basing that on a sale that took place on September 12th, the city of Pittsburgh, and we've added some cushion to that. We've also looked at some Caledonia sales and adjusted for that. So we've looked at recent bond sales that have been out there to come up with these estimates of rate. We've put in about a quarter basis point to allow for some change in that market. So
Okay.
we're already probably estimating even a little higher than it'll probably come in. And,
Yeah,
you know,
I know how you work.
yeah, well, you almost have to, because
Yeah.
when we look at the final chart,
Never want to disappoint.
that's a good way to look at
I
it
have a
too.
quick question.
Certainly.
So the $5,695,000 that we're looking to borrow, what part of, it says here that our obligation debt principal outstanding will be 20,000.3?
That's with all of your existing debt that's outstanding.
Okay.
So we
So-
add that 5.695 on top of that.
Okay,
Well, and
so,
subtract 2.2 or.
right, I understand
2.3
that.
or whatever.
No,
Okay,
no.
because then that figures into this. Okay, thank you.
So also to kind of point out, if you look at the way the principal payments are each year on this issue, you can see that we call these maturities or blocks. They're, 375,410, so on down the line. And you get to 2029 at 360,000, and then 2030 it drops to 175. That remaining years is just the new projects. The refunding is included in that first 12 years of the bond issue between now and 2029. Now, also in this, because you have a long-range plan, we've shown that if you do about $3.5 million in 19 and again in 21, what this would do to the overall planning estimates for tax rate impact. So this schedule here is intended to show you the levy dollars and the impact of the on your tax rate. So that's reflected in the far right of this particular schedule. So as far as that refunding component on the first document, unfortunately, these don't have sequential numbering schemes on it, but it says page 1, kind of looks like a schedule that looks in this fashion. That's the savings analysis. So based upon our estimate, that refunding right now will save you approximately, from where you're paying principal and interest now, between $11,000 and $16,000 a year, for a total future savings of about $169,000. So those are real dollars that, will benefit you in terms of budgeting. If we take that to a present value benefit, it's about an 8.3%. Now, that's on a current refunding. If we were advanced refunding, we'd say anywhere between 3 and 5 is good. So on a current, this is significant savings at 8% of savings of the amount that you're refunding. So it is one of the reasons that we're even bringing it forward, but it's a good opportunity.
I'm gonna ask you a question real
Sure.
quick, if that's all right, and this may seem really elementary.
Nope, that's fine.
This was a 2009 issuance, and I'm just asking to put it out there. This is a 2009 issuance that's been getting paid since 2009, correct?
Correct.
There's 2.6 million left?
There's about, to repay it off, it takes about 2.2 million. The refunding portion is 2.3 of the overall sizing. So there's about 2.2 that needs to be paid off on this. I don't recall, David, do you have any idea what that was for initially?
Oh, what specific projects it was? No,
Yeah.
I'm sure it's the same. It's all the capital improvements of the village. That bond looks like it was originally a $3.1 million bond.
So
Issuance.
it was probably structured around other debt, and we usually, to kind of level out the payments, you
Sure.
pay, less at the beginning because you're paying more interest and more principal at the back end, so it's the remaining principal.
And I was just, like I said, I was
Yeah,
just asking for
yeah.
my own, like if it, and that was helpful.
Yeah.
If it was 3.1 and now it's 2.6, it'll be good to save, it's just, it's.
2.2.
2.2 is
Okay,
what's
I'm sorry, I
outstanding.
was looking at it wrong B and I.
Two questions. One is 5.3 or 5.6, whatever it is. Is that an attractive amount?
Oh,
for the
definitely.
market? Okay.
Yeah,
And
it's a
the
good
second
size.
question is, going back to the prior one, that's got the tax rates in it. You said that does not include any forecast borrowing.
It does include a borrowing in 19 and 21, so that's built into this. So you're,
Okay, just the next go-around
Yep.
is built in, but.
The next two.
the next two.
Basically, that whole
So
capital improvements plan that
Oh,
you've been
okay,
seeing,
19 and
is built into
21,
this.
okay.
that whole plan that you've been looking at, that whole 6-year plan is sort of projected in that page.
To see the overall impact. If
see
you
the
did
overall
everything in
impact.
your capital plan for the next 6 years, this would be the impact.
And I did ask, so the public's aware, I did ask, we've talked about it, it's customary that it's been like that for quite a few years. It's not something new to borrow for the capital
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
improvement. Well, no, I'm just saying,
Well,
just so that, you know,
it matches-
talking about pretty big numbers.
It matches the income and the expense, in an accounting term. By spreading the payments out over 20 years, when you've got a street that lasts 20 years or a library that lasts 40 years, you better match the benefit going to the public with the cost going to the public. Now, the ideal thing
Yeah,
is
it's one
pay
way of
cash.
looking at it.
The ideal thing would be paying cash,
Yes.
but we don't have that kind of cash, although we've been pretty good.
This is a stupid question, but if we keep borrowing 3 million, 4 million, and it just keeps getting added on, we're paying little bits off every year, I mean, pretty soon, aren't we gonna be capped out somehow? I mean, it seems like,
Well,
it's a stupid
There's a
question,
couple
I know.
things where,
you're paying off, you're adding on, you're paying
Yeah.
off. So I don't have those schedules in front of me to see how much principal you're paying off every year,
I mean,
but
it's up to over 20 million now.
we're paying off, what, 900,000 or $1 million, somewhere in there a year, aren't we?
Remember, staff just did a quick look at that as part of the process, and the village would, based on those estimations, peak at about $35 million of debt.
What makes it peak?
The peak would,
Well, I mean, what
the
stops
peak would
it?
come where we've gotten to the high point of the amount of debt we have, and that's when
You're paying it off.
it's truly, you're just replacing old with new.
Replacing, yep.
Now,
Okay.
the new debt is always bigger, or it has in practice been bigger than the earliest debt, but we kind of made some assumptions on $3.5 million, and it peaks at around 35 million, which would, in today's dollars, be 60% of what we're allowed to borrow under state law.
Isn't that a lot, though, 60%? Is that standard for municipality?
Oh,
It seems like a lot.
Heartland is in a very good place when it comes to that. There's other municipalities in the county, well, there's other municipalities in the county that are 75-80% of what they can borrow.
We're like
We're growing our
32%.
tax,
We're like 31.5%.
No, correct. I just
what we
don't
get up
wanna
to-
see it.
yeah. We don't want to necessarily do it, but inflation increases.
Yeah, we go to 44
Plus our
billion.
tax base increases, which increases our ability to pay it
Might
back.
not, though.
And some of your outstanding
Well-
debt is, in addition to what you're financing with these types of things, I mean, you've got your library facility, and that's an outstanding issue that you probably won't be repeating again, so, you know, these next few years at the 3.5.
At what point of that percentage of that limit that we have, would it affect the rating?
I don't think you're even close to being concerned about that. I mean, that's only one piece of what they look at. Your demographics, your tax base, I mean, you have a significant tax base here and real good indicators for a lot of the other things. Your fund balance probably has almost as much impact, if not more, than your debt outstanding. So I wouldn't be too concerned about that yet. You're at a pretty low percentage overall, and as your tax base grows, that also increases that borrowing capacity as well, too, as it spreads it out over a larger base value, so.
David, it occurs to me, wasn't it like 4 or 5 years ago that we just crossed the $1 billion tax base?
It would probably be somewhere in that range. I
And
think it
what
was.
are we now?
You mean our assessed value?
Yeah.
The village's assessed value is a little over $1.2 billion.
So we've
With a
grown
B.
20% in like 4 or 5
In
years.
6 years, somewhere in there.
Yeah. So our ability, okay.
We're getting stuff to pay it off. my understanding, Dave would know better than I would, but it's our ability to be able to raise taxes
Yeah.
based upon the state law, and I don't
I
know,
think
can we
that-
raise
well,
taxes
and
for
Dawn
that? We don't have to have that discussion right now.
Is it like we'd have to hit another milestone to get a better rating? Would be like they hit 5?
Yeah, you know, and I have to
Billion
look
of
at, I
tax
know when
base or
we
something.
did your long-range plan, we kind of benchmarked you to other ratings. I don't have that information with me, but we can, you know, once your rating, once we go through the rating process, you know, we can get a good handle on that. But, you know, the things that matter are, the two big things are, your debt burden is not that significant, but it's your tax base and your fund balance will have a big impact. And when the rating is done, they'll tell you what can make your rating go up and what things could make it go down. So you should pay close attention to that, because some things you can control, some things you can't. But, you know, a lot of the communities don't have the benefit that Heartland has, and that's the demographics. I mean, your per capita per income, your value, you know, those types of things, those are harder to control. You know, your fund balance is fairly something you have total control over, you know, the amount of debt you issue, but, you know, you're not, these are not significant dollar amounts for, you know, a multi-year financing plan in terms of raising capital. So I think you're gonna do quite well again in your rating. But to get to your next rating up would be an A1, a double A1, which is, you know, there's a
We
few
would have to
communities.
grow a lot. Based on-
I'm thinking you
based on
probably,
the conversations we've
yeah,
had with Moody's in the past.
Franklin is a double A1,
We'd
Mech
have to
1
grow.
was, yeah. Those
A
are
lot.
We're about as high as we can right now.
I
probably
think we're
for
close, I
for
think we
your
are, I
tax
think
base.
you're probably right. Trustee.
So the last page of this document is to kind of give you a perspective of where interest rates have been over the last 5 years. You know, we're still in an extremely low interest rate environment. This is a 5-year trend of the 20-year bond indices. In July, we hit like a 55-year low. So we're up from July, which I wouldn't have expected us to stay down there too low. But you can see that we're still below the average over the last 5 years. And you know, if we looked at this chart going back 20 years or 30 years, you know, we're way low. So it's a good interest rate environment if you're
I'm
actually
surprised
using.
it stayed that low that long.
Yeah, I think you're not the only person that would say
Fed
that.
Cleaning up their balance sheet, maybe this might be the last golden year to get a really great rate.
That's where it gets scary. 10 years from now, you can't refinance it because it's already lower than you can refinance it to.
Well,
You
then
know
we
what I
just
mean?
pay it off,
Hopefully.
the old-fashioned way, make payments. What do we need?
Well, you have a half a dozen or so resolutions to adopt. and
Separately?
They are,
Yeah, you would.
We can
you
either
probably
read them
should
all.
do them separately.
Yeah, with the dollar amount, that's probably a good idea. So, thank you very much. Well, if anybody has any questions, they'll ask. So as we get started with this, items related to the sale of general obligations and corporate purpose bonds, as we've just heard. First one is the initial resolution authorizing general obligation bonds in amount not to exceed $2,625,000 for street improvement projects.
I so move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That is authorized. Next is initial resolution authorizing general obligation bonds in an amount not to exceed $565,000 for sewage projects.
Oh, so moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. That resolution has been authorized. Item C, initial resolution authorizing general obligation bonds in amount not to exceed $70,000 for parks and public grounds projects.
So move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. That's authorized. Next item is the initial resolution authorizing general obligation bonds in amount not to exceed $155,000 for parking lot projects.
I so move for the parking lot projects.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That resolution's authorized. Next is the initial resolution authorizing two $5,300,000 in general obligation refunding bonds.
I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's authorized. Next is the resolution providing for the sale of $5,715,000 in general obligation corporate purpose bonds.
I so move.
Somebody has
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That resolution is granted. Next item on the agenda is consideration of a motion to appoint trustee Walschlager, Ann Myers, and President Fannerstill, myself, as board representatives to the committee reviewing proposals and making recommendations for the village assessors' services.
I so move.
To that?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Do you want to add to?
I can just quickly, under your discussion, just as a reminder to the board members and as information for the public, earlier this year, an RFP was put out to seek proposals for new assessing services or a replacement contract for assessing services. Those have been received and are now ready for review, and we've asked the village board to provide a couple of representatives to go through those proposals and interview potential candidates and then bring forward a recommendation. So that's where we're at.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Those appointments are made. Next item is an update on our partnership between Hartland Lakeside School District and the Village of Hartland, presented by Recreation Director Yogerst.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Kelly Yogers. I am the Recreation Director for the Village of Hartland. In your packets, you should have found a memo in regards to the partnership that we do have with Heartland Lakeside School District. That partnership started in January 2013, and it has been a very positive experience. They have been great to work with. All the staff members, from administration all the way down to the FIED department, maintenance department. It's been truly a blessing to have wonderful people to work with that put us as a priority, as an importance, and willing to always help us out when it is needed. In 2016, we had 1,000 more participants than 2015. We also offered 10 more programs than 2015. 279 programs in 2016, 61 of them were at the schools. That's 10 more from 2015. We're able to just have more classes that we could put in the facilities. Also, a total of there were 652 participants out of the total enrollment that attended those programs that went to either North Shore Middle School, Heartland South, or Heartland North. We have the ability to use all of those schools, and also the Little Red Schoolhouse as well, too. 420 of them were residents and 232 were non-residents. Part of the agreement when we put this together was in the families, individuals who paid taxes to Heartland Lakeside School District but did not pay tax to the Village of Heartland, they would be considered residents. At this point in time, we have 899 of those residents that would technically not be considered residents. So when I say 420 residents use the facilities, that's also those who are paying taxes just to the Heartland Lakeside School District. So that's definitely gone up. Last year was 405 residents and 258 non-residents that use the school's facilities. Our at Heartland South and Summer Afternoon Camp in North Shore, we went up in our summer camp and our before and after school care. In 2015, we had 1,152, and in 2016, we had 1,398. And that's pretty much it. It's been, like I said, a very good, positive relationship with the Heartland Lakeside School District. I'm going next Monday to present this to the school board, give them an update. And I've been very pleased and feel very fortunate and lucky to be able to work with our school district as closely as we have been able to. It's truly a blessing when I hear about some rec departments the school district wants nothing to do with them, and they're charging $150 for their facilities, but they've been nice enough to let us use it. So, and they've been great to work with. So,
Is there a limit to how much it can expand?
what? I'm sorry.
Is there a limit to how much it can
I am
expand further?
basically at it right now.
It's not a contractual limit, I think it's a space limit.
It's a space and time because they have their sports, especially boys basketball. I can't do as much because their boys basketball takes up every minute in the afternoon at North, South, North Shore. If I could get my hands on North Shore Gym, that would be wonderful. They do allow, I don't do a lot of youth activities in the gyms because of their sports. Just this fall, I started doing pickleball at North on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, Sundays, and I actually had to put a cap on how many people could sign up because we only can get 2 courts and people are sitting on the side. In the evenings, yes. Mr. Nekic, who is one of the FIAD teachers and the athletic director, he kind of reserved Thursdays from 5 to 7:15 for my basketball program. And that also carries into next year from December through April, I believe, when the boys are. But pickleball Tuesdays are going to have to go away, and that's how we ended up with Friday nights from 6 to 8. Sundays we had 4 hours of pickleball where people would come and play. So if I could find a nice big space to use, I would love it. I have a lot of people that would love it. But yeah, I definitely could, if I had a big space, use it more. And that's kind of what I need, is a big space to offer like youth programs or adult kind of fitnessy programs like basketball and stuff. So, but I've gotten pretty good at utilizing Sundays for like open gym, and hopefully we'll be able to do an open archery shoot indoors. I'm gonna see if I can use North Shore for that because it's a longer range versus South. It's a shorter range, but that's where all the equipment is. So I'm gonna see if we can move the equipment over. They might consider doing that, but I try to be as savvy as possible with using the time and space I have. So, but I can't complain. Like when I go to John, because he's kind of the guy I talk to at the gym, he tries really hard to accommodate me, and
But it's been successful.
Oh, it's been wonderful. It's been really nice. They trust me. I trust them. If I ever need help, they're there. I can call them and get help right away. And so we communicate on a regular basis and just kind of keep each other updated on what's going on and stuff. So.
Is there ever a possibility, probably not, to use the soccer facility or maybe the gym at the racquetball club sometimes?
The soccer where?
It's in the industrial park. I forgot the name of it.
Oh,
Right
Strike
across
Force?
from Mike.
I would have to
Country
see
record?
how much that costs. It
No,
probably
the soccer
Oh,
place.
yeah, that soccer, I don't know.
it probably
thought that
costs a
would
lot.
You don't think they would
Yeah, I
be
don't.
nice and?
I don't know, because they also might, if it's a soccer club, they probably are booked Monday through Friday and on the weekends. Yeah, I mean, it's a great idea, but usually those places are pretty hopping and happening, so, yeah. Yeah, and I know my fitness programs, we started a barre strength class, and the instructor was kind of like, well, I want mornings. I'm like, well, you're going to have to come at 7:15 to 8:15. So she's doing it Mondays and Thursdays, and she's awesome. If you want to feel the burn, go to her. So, but I just didn't have no space like in the mornings, and kind of evenings are kind of tied too, because now like on Monday we have kinder music, and then Wednesdays we have, Mondays is dance here with To the Point, And then Wednesdays, we're trying to get kinder music going and get that going in the afternoon. So, yeah, we're trying. We're trying. So, any other questions?
Seems to be going well.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Next items are announcements. Does anyone have announcements?
This Saturday from 9 a.m. till noon, the village is hosting the recycling for the electronics and appliances at our Public Works facility, 701 Progress Drive. So bring your recyclables to the event, again, 9 a.m. to noon. There is a $25 charge for television sets and a $10 charge for cathode ray tube computer monitors. Thank you.
Thanks.
You're only allowed one a month.
Just have a couple of quick items. If you look tonight's expenditures, you saw a fee there for the flag center, and that was the purchase of a 30 by 50 feet flag. 30 by 50 foot would be the proper way, wouldn't it? Flag, a 5 by 8 flag for the station, and a 3 by 5 flag. The total coming up to $1,526. On behalf of President Schleyline from the Firefighters Association, who could not be here tonight, the Firefighters Association would like to donate that money that was raised privately as a gesture to the village. We didn't think taxpayers had to pay for the flag, and we really appreciate it. We have flown the flag. Hopefully many of you have seen it. It flies from the new ladder truck, and really looks beautiful.
It's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Thank you. That's awesome. That's
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Check.
Yay!
Well, that's worth letting him talk again.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You got anything else you want to say?
I do, actually. The Pancake Breakfast was Saturday, past Saturday. It was a huge success. Lots and lots of people toured the fire station. We had bus safety. We had the Survive Alive house open. Kids could spray the fire hose. We had an extrication demonstration. So rolling right on to the next fundraiser, this Wednesday and Thursday, we will be experimenting with our first ever Heartland Fire Department pizza delivery in conjunction with Enter Sports Grill. You can order a 16-inch pizza at cheese, pepperoni, sausage, or pepperoni and sausage, or a supreme, and wings in increments of 6, and have it delivered to your house by firemen in fire trucks. And as a token of our appreciation for ordering pizza, and 20% of the proceeds will benefit the fire department, we will do a free fire alarm check of your smoke detector, free smoke detector check, to see if it is working. If it is working, there might be a benefit. If it is not working, we will offer a free battery. And if they do not have smoke detectors, we will make an appointment with them to set up and install brand new smoke detectors through the American Heart Association.
Do they have to,
Or American Red
Red
Cross,
Cross.
I apologize, American Red Cross.
do they have to be in the village? Can it be in the town mountain?
They have to be in our response area.
Okay.
So, yes, there are portions of the town of Merton that are in our response area. So it'll be a great opportunity for our firemen to get out and practice road signs, address finding, and meet and greet with the public. And it's a nice night to have dinner. I did talk to Pat Enter this morning, and Wednesday looks like it's already booked with pre-orders, so we're looking at Thursday already. So if you want to order a pizza, order soon.
And again, for Thursday, it's 20% of it.
20% of all
fire
proceeds,
department.
yep.
And
go to
even
the-
if someone doesn't want to get their smoke detectors checked for whatever reason.
Correct.
They can still just order and just take the pizza and eat.
Order anyway, yep. And we have had numerous requests for not cooked pizzas ready for the freezer.
Oh.
So Mr. Enter has agreed to make the pizza and wrap it ready for the freezer. So you can make it the next day. Take it home and bake it whenever for that special occasion around the fireplace.
I wouldn't make it through the night.
With your smoke detectors working. So it's our first time we're going to try it. We'll see how it works out. And appreciate the opportunity. So order a pizza from Enter Sports Pub, and 20% of all proceeds and the tips will benefit the Heartland Fire.
Thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
And the breakfast was great.
And to make sure they're not speeding when they're delivering those pizzas, you may have noticed the purchase of a speed sign on the voucher list from TAPCO, $3,900. We get grant money periodically, and in this case, 75% of that was paid for through this grant. So throughout the village and the main roads coming into the center of town, you see these pole-mounted speed signs. Those are fixed in those locations, but we get continuous complaints about speeding in other areas. So we purchased a temporary one. Now we have the speed trailer that's co-owned by different municipalities, so we only get it 1 week per month. But this sign will be ours. It's capable of data collection so that we can have it in the off position. Nobody sees a display, but yet it's recording all the speeds, or we can have it display the speed. But we want to look at those areas where we get frequent speed complaints and target those areas with this sign. We'll work with the DPW for its temporary placement. But I just wanted you to be aware of, if you see that purchase, that we've already received a check for 75% of that cost back to the village, so that we're not paying that $3,900, but we've gotten a number of these grants over the years, and that's how we've done all those speed signs throughout the village.
You're not taking pictures, are you, while you're?
We are not taking
Just
pictures.
want to make sure.
No.
Just
They do
mailing the
work very
tickets.
well.
Well, you
I-
want to
I-
fix your makeup first?
Yeah. I've noticed this morning when I was on my way to work, the car in front of me was doing 35, and they just slowed right down until they got to 25 at the sign.
Sure.
So they do work.
And another point of information, we thank the DPW, specifically Dave Jamberitz, who maintains those signs, is that one of the features is the flashing feature. Our signs, up until about a week ago, would just display the speed, but as a way to really get people's attention, we set it so that when it's 7 miles an hour over the speed limit, it starts to flash to really get people's attention. And there's a visual deterrent then, or a psychological deterrent to speeding by wanting to get it to stop flashing and then eventually get that number down to the speed limit. Thank you.
That's great, thank you. Any other announcements?
I thought they always flashed.
No other announcements? I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned.